from all over the world come into our center in South Africa to heal a variety of fear in different forms, whether it's depression, anxiety, burnout, addictions, whether it's grief, trauma, whatever it's going to be. We must understand that these things are manifestations of how we have experienced our environment and life. How we react to those experiences in our environment becomes important, especially now in a healing process. And what we need to do is follow a roadmap. People often come in and say, I've been depressed or anxious for 20 years. I've tried everything around the world and nothing seems to work. I've been on every kind of medication and I just can't get myself to cross over the finish line and keep momentum with any kind of healing process. So what we've done is created 10 simple pathways from a very complex model that we've taken from psychiatry, science, and psychology, as well as spirituality. There are only 10 personality disorders, and within those 10, we have a series of attitudes, traits, perceptions, and thoughts that we think again and again, which become entrenched belief systems, really, that we can see on a brain scan as neural networks. And what we need to do when we want to heal is cross over what I call the dark night of the soul and enter an arena where we find the courage to now start facing the dragons. The dragons that we all have, these demons within, appear real, but they're not true. So what we do is we separate the personality from the soul or the sacred self. The personality becomes depressed, addicted, and disordered, where the soul inside is that authentic self, that part of you that keeps on keeping on. It keeps growing. It knows it has to contribute and become well, because that journey is intrinsic to each and every one of us. Now, even if we give up, which is commonplace today, we still have a burning desire within us that flames up from time to time that says, go and find healing, go and overcome. And this is where this paradigm process comes in. And in the book, we start to explain in the first chapter, Enter the Dragon, where we are born today into a world of chaos. We're born into a world where time moves pretty fast and obsessive thinking and compulsions are commonplace. And eventually that, coupled with everything else that we have to go through, ends up in a traumatic experience. But we want the answer. What we wanted when we said to people, healing is possible for everybody, is to overcome their personality, to really throw it away and start creating a new persona that they could integrate and dissolve successfully into their soul or into who they really were. It's a match made in heaven rather than a mismatch made in hell that we all have to endure for a time. The paradigm process is about 10 pathways, 10 simple pathways created through psychiatric, psychological, scientific, and spiritual evidence that we've amassed and accumulated for the last 25 years. We've measured people at our center. We've researched what makes them ill and what makes them get well again. And that process really starts with stopping. What do you know? Everything is paradox and everything has a polar opposite. And once we get into the space in between, the space between stimulus and response, which we do through meditations, through mindfulness, through contemplative practices and so on, we are then able to understand the 10 masks of the persona that we have. The first one being control. A controlling insurgent is there to keep you safe as you grow up. It's there to stand in your way, to take immediate control and make decisions for you while you're 8 years old, 12 years old, and so on. But that control soon enough spirals completely out of control. And it becomes what was once a good friend, it becomes an enemy. So letting go of control is something that is necessary for all of us as a first step. And while we do that, we recover a sense of self-love, a sense of compassion for ourselves, and a sense specifically of who we really are. We're not controlling by nature, we're controlling by design. And that design, the creation of the personality, was there to keep you safe, defend you from harm, from crouching tigers in the grass. But those tigers are no longer there. So eventually running around in states of stress for long periods of time, of course, doesn't serve the body, the heart, the mind, and it needs to go. We then move on to pathway 2, which is letting go of the perfectionist. Very, very much a part of who we all are today. It's part of the world we live in. It's part of the design that is in primary schools, in high schools, in universities, and then of course in business. We're expected to be perfect, and there's no such thing. So we're led on a false trail of living up to a person that we're not. And anything that's a lie or falsehood ends in suffering and disaster. Of course it does. Why? Because life is taking us on a journey towards truth, and especially consciousness and reality. We let go of our perfectionism and we recover a sense of surrender. We let go of our perfectionism and we recover a sense of gratitude. Gratitude is something that has to be practiced again. You can have the car eventually, the career, the wife, the kids, and live in a beautiful area, but you can't see them after a while. The frightened personality, fear in the mind, does not allow us to see these things. It keeps us pushing and pushing and pushing until we eventually burn out and wear out. So as we let go of perfectionism, which is unreal, we rediscover gratitude. Gratitude we had as a child and we need to recover, because gratitude, surrender, self-love, all of these things are in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. They're not in the survival mind, the doldrums of the basement of the mind, where we become frightened and stuck, afraid of the dark once again. In the paradigm process, we work through letting go of the codependent masks that we wear and recovering a sense of connection with self, God, and others. And this helps us in our careers, in all our relationships. And so we start once again to grow. And when we grow, we gain confidence. And when we gain confidence, we start to change not only ourselves, but the world we thought we lived in. If every thought that you think right now would come with you to heaven, where would heaven be? At some point, we need to realize the dark thoughts that we think, the survival-minded thoughts, the negativity, are all part of a paradigm that at some point we need to let go of when we no longer find peace, when we no longer have joy in our lives. At some point, we let go of the people pleaser and we recover then a sense of self-regulation. And as we go through even more steps, we start to let go of our judge and recover a sense of wisdom. And finally, we let go of our anxiety and recover a sense of courage. Courage, of course, meaning heart. We move from IQ to EQ to CQ. We move from what we thought was intelligence, which is just the brain's chattering most of the time, to an emotional, heartfelt intelligence. We move from thought to feeling. And then we move from feeling to innovation, to new action. And that new action is the cure that everybody's looking for. We're taking medicine to find new ways of living, acting and behaving. We're taking electroshock therapy. We're taking ketamine. We're taking all sorts of elixirs and cocktails from alchemists out there to try and get back to the soul, to the sacred self, and to the essence, of course, of who we really are. So suffering and depression, anxiety, is all actually leading us home. this paradigm process is a roadmap. It's a beacon of light that just simply allows us to let go of the false persona and recover the authentic sacred self once more.